Right. Okay. So once again, my name is Gisela Ruckert, and I'm speaking to you from the unceded lands of the Secwepemc and Secwepemc-Ulu. This land covers 180,000 square kilometers in the central interior of our province, including the confluence of the North and South Thompson Rivers, where the city of Kamloops is now located. And I want to acknowledge the stewardship of the land that the people who have lived here since time immemorial have shown, and I commit to learning from their example. Transition Kamloops is the sponsor of this presentation tonight, and we are educating ourselves by studying the calls to action that came out of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And we pledge our allyship to see that those actions are implemented. So, who is Transition Kamloops and what do we do? We're an organization focused on increasing local resilience and self-sufficiency in food, water, energy, culture, and wellness. We emphasize a local economy, healthy ecosystems, and grassroots community building while reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. We believe in a better way, a community that sustains life in all its diversity, strives for equality and justice, and invests in the future. We have a couple of events coming up. We have a repair cafe team that is putting on a pop-up repair cafe where people can bring in their appliances and clothing, other items that are in need of repair. Anything you can carry, anything that you can carry, you can bring in other than computers and cell phones. We aren't able to fix those. So that'll be May 28th at Sahali Mall from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're also doing an eco-poetry book launch June 4th with local Kamloops artist and author Wendy Wassine. And you'll be hearing more about that from us if you're on our newsletter list. If you would like to receive the Transition Kamloops newsletter and you aren't currently, please just write a note in the chat with your email address and we will make sure to add you to that list. And you can learn more about us and what we're doing at www.transitionkamloops.net. So I want to welcome everyone I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining this presentation this evening. I'm really excited about this. We've talked to Christa and Jocelyne from Aquamation BC Coalition a few times, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about this topic tonight, as I'm sure you are as well. So Jocelyne, maybe you can just give us a little wave from your screen, is the Executive Director, thank you, of Aquamation BC. And Christa Ovenell is the founder, she's the media and point person at Aquamation BC Coalition, and she will be our primary speaker tonight. So Christa is the founder of Death's Apprentice Education and Planning. Her company specializes in holistic advanced care planning for individuals and forward-thinking companies. She's a licensed funeral director and an embalmer, as well as an end-of-life doula, a community death educator, and you may have heard her, we did, as a columnist on CBC Radio's province-wide weekend morning show, North by Northwest. Christa takes a heart-centered, pragmatic approach to difficult topics, helping people get comfortable thinking about, talking about, and planning for life's only certainty. You can reach her on Instagram or her website at deathsapprentice.ca. So if we're ready to go ahead, Christa, I'll change into the speaker view.
I am ready. I'm ready when you are.
We'll start the screen share so that you can begin.
All right, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming and spending this hour with me on what is down here on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, an absolutely beautiful evening, which I haven't been able to say very frequently. So, oh, you're going to need to go back a couple of slides there, love. There we go. that's the beginning. Perfect. Thank you. So thank you for stepping out of your every evening work and all the stuff that you have going on and coming to spend some time with us at Aquamation BC. You already met Jocelyne. She's the brains and the beauty behind this little organization of ours. She has been quite tireless for the last, I would say, decade or more, trying to legalize alkaline hydrolysis. The coalition, Aquamation BC, was formed to educate British Columbians about alkaline hydrolysis, which is, as you're going to learn, an environmentally safer option to conventional burial and to flame-based cremation, which is the type of cremation that we're most familiar with. Our little group, bit of a ragtag group, you can see here, Nio Davis and Christa and I, we're all funeral directors. And so Jocelyne's the outlier there. We also have a wonderful advisory committee that really helps us. Some of them are in industry, some of them are also in the funeral business, some of them are like concerned citizens. We have another group of people who are stakeholders, and organizations like Transition Kamloops actually could be part of the stakeholder team with us here at Aquamation BC. It's all community oriented, it's all volunteer run. We are running pretty hard and we've been doing this work for quite a long time, but our main goal is to petition the government to approve this process with a simple amendment to regulations, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail later. Yeah, it's been a really, I've only been part of this particular group for several months, but like I say, the core team has been working at this for over a decade now. So you can go to our next slide. And I do think that it's possible that you're going to stay as the main person that people can see, but that's just fine by me. So our agenda tonight is pretty straightforward. I want to talk just a little bit about what we're talking about when I say the word disposition. I want to talk about why we need to discuss demographics whenever we're having this conversation. And then the whole reason that you're here is because you want to learn more about aquamation, alkaline hydrolysis. So I'll get to that too, I promise. Go ahead. So it saddens me as a funeral director to say that we have really truly dismal disposition options available to us in British Columbia. We have two measly options. We have cremation or we have burial. And here's the interesting thing, is that when people think about burial, it's not far, especially in groups like ours, where we might be a little green tinged, you know, where we might be thinking about the environment a little bit more frequently as part of what we do in our day-to-day lives, perhaps. A lot of us have probably heard about green burial, but not very many of us have heard about a green cremation. And there is a green option when it comes to cremation. It's available. It's just not available here. So let's go on. All right. Here's the thing. You can picture, actually some of us in this room are boomers. I'm not, I'm a very proud Gen Xer, but some of us in this room right now are baby boomers. And you know, if you remember sort of social studies, you remember that curve, you can picture it, and you can picture how it has moved through all aspects of our society from the time that they first got here, right after the Second World War, right? They have impacted everything. Everything to do with life in our society has been profoundly shaped by this enormous demographic curve, this boom. And what's about to happen is, despite their very best intentions, these baby boomers are actually going to begin dying in record numbers, because in a very few short years, they are all going to be, every single last one of them will be over 65. And this is going to have enormous impact just in our society, how every aspect of how we live has been influenced and touched and often directed by baby boomers. Well, how we die is also going to be impacted by baby boomers. So we really need to take demographics into our process when we're dealing with end of life. And we haven't really embraced that yet. 41,000 people died in British Columbia last year. And the simple fact of the matter is that depending on where you live, between 82 and 94% of those people chose cremation. And here in BC, they only had the flame-based option to choose. So as lovely as it is to think, oh, there's this beautiful green disposition option, which I am in huge favor of. I love green burial. But the simple fact is not many of us choose burial. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle to get people to do that. Why don't we legalize alkaline hydrolysis, and then we can give folks an opportunity to choose that instead. All right, go ahead. Here we are. This is what you all came for. I promise I wouldn't keep you waiting too long, right? Alkaline hydrolysis. Sometimes you're going to hear other words. Aquamation BC, for example. We've chosen that as the Aquamation BC Coalition, ABC. Alkaline hydrolysis is the process, and aquamation and resumation and biocremation and other names, flameless cremation, these are like the brand name, if you will. So alkaline hydrolysis is the process. These other things are like the Kleenex, if you will, the tissue in the Kleenex. And alkaline hydrolysis is a beautiful and safe an environmentally friendly option for disposition that's currently available in 4 provinces and 1 territory here in Canada. It's available in, I think, already 22 states down in the US, just down south. And what's really interesting about it is that it's a very similar process in terms of the amount of time that it takes and what is left over afterwards. In a flame-based cremation, what happens is your body goes into, it has to be here in British Columbia in a box, commonly known as a casket, legally, can't simply be shrouded. That's just enshrined in our laws. And then it gets placed in what's called a retort or a chamber. And then flames reduce everything on the bones. So your skin, your sinew, your everything, all your flesh, everything of that just goes away by flame. Well, in alkaline hydrolysis, it's water, heat, and potassium that does that same job. It leaves the skeletal remains behind, but even more importantly, it leaves anything like depending on how old you are, mercury fillings, for example, or if you've got like a metal hip, or if you've got if they forgot to take your retainer out before they put you in there, anything inorganic will also be left behind. At the end, you're going to have a pile of bones that will be processed exactly the same way your bones, when they're left behind after a flame-based cremation, are processed in a great big thing called a cremulator, my favorite Scrabble word. Great big thing called a cremulator will process those bones. The bones, because of the water and the lye or the potassium, are going to be a bit softer, and there's probably going to be about 20% more of them. Your remains, those ashes, will be often they're a bit whiter and they're quite a bit finer and they're kind of softer, but they're basically the same thing that you'll get after a typical traditional flame-based cremation. I'll go into a little bit more on some of the details in a couple of slides hence, but what I'd like to do is just, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history. It's surprising to people that to learn that it's already being used in BC here for pets and even livestock, but it's not legal for humans. So I want to just give us a little bit of history, and you can go ahead to our next slide. Thank you. So I do not expect you to read this, all right? But I love this image. This is actually an original patent plate from, can you guess, 1888. You can believe that. December 25th. Gentleman named Amos Hobson from the UK, from Middlesex, actually, in England, created the patent for this. He was concentrating on the removal of nitrogenous byproducts from bones and looking for like a better mousetrap, a better fertilizer. And he saw the benefits of alkaline hydrolysis. And he thought, well, this can maybe treat like this could potentially treat animal byproducts too. And he was right. And in this document, he defined the process for low temperature alkaline hydrolysis in an enormous amount of detail. So that was 1888. Now, if we go to the less ancient history, and if you'll just scroll forward one for me, we move up to the 50s and then the 90s and then 2011. We had some professors in Albany who were looking for ways to reduce the costs of disposing animal products, really, animals that had been researched with isotopes, radioisotopes. And they had this idea that maybe animals are 65% water anyway, right? At least. So maybe if we could like reduce them to water, we could make this a whole bunch easier. So they were both professors for molecular biology, and they were like, let's try. I don't know if it was a drinking game or what, but they came up with it. And actually that was the like invention, if you will, after the patent of the original tissue digester, was what it was called. So then you fast forward to the 90s. It was actually the mid 90s, and it was in Florida that the first time an alkaline hydrolysis machine was used so that human bodies could be disposed of. It was mostly, I think it was the Shands Hospital, and it's still in use today. And so this was for bodies and tissues that had been donated for science. Then in 2011, we see, or sorry, actually 2005, sorry about that, we see the first single body system being used in the Mayo Clinic. And if you go to the Aquamation BC website, aquamationbc.ca, you can see a terrific video from the Mayo Clinic that's just an excellent explainer, in fact, much better than I am. From 2011 onwards, we started seeing this in funeral homes, and we have been seeing the use of alkaline hydro. Well, we haven't been seeing it because we never talk about this stuff, but it has been in use across North America for quite some time. Things like biocontainment laboratories, private research, pharmaceutical companies for tissue digestion and things like that, universities, zoos, pet crematoria. Actually, Jocelyne had one of the very, very first in the country in terms of pet alkaline hydrolysis. Like, she has some serious cred, my friends. Funeral homes, connection summit, and crematories, just not here in BC, and medical schools and willed body donation programs have all been using this process. It has been tried and tested again and tried, and it's safe, and it's been in use for a very long time. So go ahead. So how does it work, and what are the benefits, and what am I talking about when I say that this is green, right? The thing is that alkaline hydrolysis is going to produce a sterile and neutral solution of amino acids, peptides, sugars, and really like a soap residue. And this is safe to dispose of just down a typical municipally treated sewer. You could dehydrate this. It doesn't happen frequently, but you technically could, and then you could dispose of that dehydrated powder in a landfill. Or it could be used for fertilizer or even composting. It's perfectly safe. The same process as natural burial is what we're dealing with here. When you think of the process of alkaline hydrolysis, it's actually what happens a few feet under, but just way, way slower. The body will slowly, in that colder and anaerobic setting, it will slowly do what alkaline hydrolysis will do quickly with heat and water and potassium. So the body is going to be placed in a chamber, and I will show you a picture at the very end of what these chambers look like, especially when they're side by side to a traditional flame-based cremation. And then what happens is the crematory operator, the cremationist, just like in a flame-based cremation, where that person is going to have to do a little bit of calculation about how long and how high a temperature they'll need to use, well, In water cremation, they're going to need to figure out how much water and how much potassium to use and how much heat and for how long this is going to take. They will do that, they'll put it in, and then they'll just walk away, just like in a flame-based cremation when things just happen for a number of hours, and then later you take the cremated remains out. In both cases, you're going to be left with bones, bone fragments. In the case of an alkaline hydrolysis, as I mentioned, you're also going to be left with wonderful things that don't go up a smokestack. Mercury fillings or any amalgam fillings even. Anything inorganic at all will not be disturbed, and it certainly won't be set fire and put up a chimney. So I want to just pause for a moment to let you know that the benefits of alkaline hydrolysis are also that everything that you can do with a flame-based cremation, you can do with alkaline hydrolysis. There is no reason to alter ceremony in any way just because you're having a water cremation rather than a flame-based cremation. These cremations could still be witnessed. You could still have a service or a ceremony of whatever type you wanted before the cremation took place. The body is dealt with exactly the same way as it is for any other legal disposition in the province. Service and ritual and ceremony, they are not lessened at all by choosing this method of disposition, all right? So the body is going to be, there's one key difference though. The body will be dressed in natural fibers or it will be shrouded because remember the tissue digester, it can't digest polyester, which is a great excuse, I think, to not wear polyester one last time. There's no need, in fact, a casket won't really work. Technically, you could maybe have like a willow casket or something like that around you as long as it was 100% natural. But typically what will happen is you will be dressed in natural fibers or you will be shrouded, or conceivably you could also be naked. There would be no need, like there is in cremation, for a container around your body, a casket around your body. You're going to be weighed, like I said, and there'll be some calculations done. You'll be in a special sort of biodegradable bag while they put you on the scale. And then there's going to be the right amount of alkali put in. And then you're going to enter, your cremationist will enter everything in onto a little touch screen panel and just begin and walk away. Takes about the same amount of time as a flame-based cremation takes, which there is a big range there, all right? Little baby infants can go in under an hour. Very large humans that are in very, very heavy caskets, for example, in a flame-based cremation, could easily take over 12 hours. So quite a range, but typically between 4 and 8 hours is quite manageable in a water-based cremation. And like I said, you're going to get back about 20% more cremated remains than you would from a flame-based cremation. All right. Alkaline hydrolysis can occur at literally any temperature. It occurs underground in a burial setting in cool weather, but it's going to take much longer. So this is where we add the heat, all right? And so the water and the heat is what's actually going to help us have this be something that can be reasonable. It would take weeks if you did it at room temperature, and that's just not practical, right? So I think what's really critical to know is that for the most part, these things will be heated between the addition of the alkali and just temperature being raised by electricity or gas or what have you. You'll be looking at about 212 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. So before I get on to why it's green, I'll just touch on the many benefits of alkaline hydrolysis. One of the terrific things is it will actually destroy all prions, all pathogens, including prions, and that's actually not easy to do. So yay, that's a very safe thing. What you're left with afterwards, there's no risk at all to any of us. Every pathogen is destroyed through the process of alkaline hydrolysis. if someone were embalmed beforehand, which would be absolutely allowable if that was chosen by the family. So like formaldehyde and phenol and cytotoxic agents and things like that, those would actually be harmless biodegradable derivatives through this process as well. AH can actually even convert biological warfare weapons to harmless biodegradable derivatives. The materials become sterile because of the process of the breakdown of the properties. The microorganisms consist of protein, and they're broken down into amino acids and small peptides as well. So completely safe, just nothing to concern yourself with. The green benefits are why we're here with Transitions BC today. Threefold, really. Far less energy is needed. When you think of what it takes to heat a retort, a chamber, a furnace chamber, which is what your body would go into in a flame-based cremation, up to the 1800 degrees Fahrenheit and sustained for the 4 to 8 hours that it needs to be sustained at, the carbon demand for that is so, or the fuel demand for that is so enormous. And the carbon footprint then is equally enormous. It shocks many people to learn just how environmentally unsound traditional cremation is, flame-based cremation is. But every single cremation, flame-based cremation, emits enough carbon, the same amount of carbon that it would take if you or I just got into our cars in Kamloops and drove past Toronto. And remember, 41,000 people died last year, and 80% minimum of those people chose cremation, right? So the potassium is a natural derivative. It's everywhere, and it's very easy to get. Potassium hydroxide, caustic potash lye. Those are the three words, the names that you probably heard of it as. We have abundant potassium on the planet, and that it's so easy to produce this alkali. So that's not something that we sort of need to get all up in arms about. It's already commonly used in things like soft soaps, like little hand pump soaps, and anything to do with personal hygiene products. It's already there. It's an essential nutrient for things like plant growth. It's already part of our fertilizer. So we're in really good company when we're using potassium as something to break down our tissues, to deal with human disposition. Unlike cremation, one of the, like flame-based cremation, one of the things that I really love is that there is no need for things, nothing escapes. So you're placed into this lovely little chamber. There's water, a little bit of heat that is added, but not a lot is needed because the interaction of the potassium being added to the water already creates a chemical reaction that already begins to heat the water. And the thing is that there are no harmful end products that are created from the metals going up the chimney. And when you think of how likely it is, especially if you've hit a certain age, that you've got something in your body that wasn't there when you were born, quite likely, right? And that is all going up the retort chamber. It doesn't do that here in an alkaline hydrolysis process. It's just left behind. And it's so clean and so pure that theoretically, they could even be, the medical equipment, for example, could even be reused, which I think is spectacular. So I am getting close to done. Oh, you can go ahead to the, yes, okay. So here's the problem. It's great. We love it. We want it. We've been working for a very long time to make this a reality. But goodness, we're facing an uphill battle. What are we up against? Are we close? And could I get you to help me? Because this is a very serious thing. 41,000 people died. By 2025, we are already going to be looking at a big spike, and that is just going to go huge for about 20 years after 2025. So what are we up against? We're up against a government that has been telling us quite consistently that they're not super interested in doing the work that needs to be done to get this legalized. We are a very regulated industry. There are actually three acts that govern funeral services, but the one that has the most to do with the cremation of human bodies is the Cremation, Interment, and Funeral Services Act. And changing that act is a very difficult thing. Changing any act is a very difficult thing. I'll tell you in a moment about a plan that we at Aquamation BC have to get around this. But one of the big difficulties is that I genuinely believe that the government any sitting government is not that interested in talking about death and dying. I don't think it's a particularly sexy talk. I don't think they're happy with the idea of getting up on a stump speech and saying, I have a great idea. Nobody's going to campaign on this. Nobody is going to embrace this the way we likely need them to help us with this work. Because you know what? If they do it the way they want to do it, it will be expensive and time consuming, and there will be criticism. So the other thing that we're up against is that we have the Consumer Protection of British Columbia and we have the BC Funeral Association. Those two bodies have varying levels of arm's length oversight on the funeral industry, and neither of those two agencies are coming into this conversation because they're saying nobody's asking for it. That's why I'm here. That's why Aquamation BC is here. And that's why groups like Transition Kamloops are being so useful and helpful for us, because we need people to say, actually, I have heard about it and I do want it. So how close are we? All right, let me just get something here. We could be really close. It's crazy expensive and time consuming and frankly problematic to open up an act and change the act. But in Saskatchewan, which was the very first province that did this, they simply changed a regulation. To change a regulation, you don't need to do really much of anything. You don't need to have a multi-party committee. You don't need to lawyer anything, and you don't need to have it debated on the floor of the legislature. Other provinces have already shown that this is something that we could do. Chris Benesh, who I introduced you to at the beginning on the slide, he has been tireless in his fight to help get this across the line. And I firmly believe that when we win this fight, he will be the very first place in all of BC to have a wonderful brand new alkaline hydrolysis unit. He has two options that he wants people to understand really clearly. Option 1 and option 2. Okay, option 1 is to open the regulations, and these regulations are what governs the care and control of deceased people. And it's a very, very, very simple thing to just add a definition of cremation, because it doesn't currently exist in our current regulations, to add alkaline hydrolysis as a part of the definition of cremation. This could be done by an order in council. And the order in council is a tool that's available to the government to make little housekeeping amendments. It's done in other places. It's done here all the time. This is what Aquamation BC has been suggesting and has been trying to put forward as a very reasonable solution. It's simpler, and it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to take less time. But we have been met, unfortunately, with very strong pushback from this. So what the other option is to go in and open the act. And if we do that, Chris points out that the act is going to have to be rewritten. And then it has to get presented to the legislature for debate, and then it has to get voted on by all members of the legislature. And to do this, the Speaker of the House actually has to go in and change the order paper, and they have to get it on the agenda for a particular sitting. So either the fall or the spring or the winter. You see our problem, right? Unfortunately, the government has indicated that this is their preferred choice. This is their preferred method, and they feel that they want to do it this way, they're telling us, because they think that the addition of alkaline hydrolysis is such a significant change that it doesn't really fit into the parameters of just a housekeeping change. Every single one of us at Aquamation BC don't agree. We think that this is a very, very simple change. So if we were to do it this other way, we would be looking at the first way, the option one. We could be looking at something that could be dealt with literally, we could be up against the wall already, right? This is why we need your help. And if you could just advance the slide for me. One of the most significant things that we're going to ask you to do is to go here to aquamationbc.ca and sign our petition. We've created a legally binding petition, not like what you might have seen, and you may have already signed on like change.org or something like that. This is actually a petition that has been written, drafted in such a way that it could legally be presented on the floor of the legislature. We don't have as many signatures as we hope we would by now. And what you can do for us is to go and sign this petition and share this petition widely. Share it with your groups, share it with your family, share it with your anyone 18 or older, please, who lives in British Columbia, and ask them to share it as well. If you can give them one little scare tactic, maybe, if that would be helpful. 41,000 people died in BC last year. Almost 90% of them chose cremation. Every single individual cremation has as much of an environmentally damaging footprint of getting in your car and driving to Toronto. So this is like probably number one. Number two is to go to aquamationbc.ca, where you have just gone to sign the petition. And right about in the middle of the page, you're going to see a lot of how can you help. One of the ways that you can help is to print up the wallet cards and just have them so that if people are interested, just introduce it into your conversation and say, oh, here, go here. That's another way. We are a ragtag group that I showed you at the beginning of this. We are all volunteers and we pay for everything. Part of the reason that I'm not presenting in person, not just COVID, but that's a big part of it. But I can't afford to get up to Kamloops, and frankly, even just the printing, which we will do for you if you would like us to do, and hosting this website and all that costs money as well. If anybody was interested in making a small donation, there's an opportunity on www.aquamationbc.ca to do that as well. And finally, if you would like us to come to your group and give a talk like this one or a more tailored one specifically for your group, we would be enormously happy to do that. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Jocelyne, Chris can get out there, any of us, all of us, whatever you need from us and whenever you need us.
Christa, we lost your voice.
Is it just me that can't hear Christa?
No, I can't hear either.
Can't hear her either.
Oh, and now she's
there. Yeah, looks like she may have lost her internet.
You know what? I think she was just about at the end.
Yeah, she had one more slide left. I'm going to call her.
Jocelyne, would you like to speak to that last slide, or?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. I'll just advance the.
This is an actual installation, and as you can see, the two large units, that's the fire cremation units, and the small unit next to it is actually an alkaline hydrolysis unit. That's the stainless steel cylinder that the body is put in, and then the water and the alkali is then added, and anywhere between 6 to 12 hours, the process will be over. This slide she picked so that you could have an idea of the footprint and how much room I call them the belching fire retorts can take in a funeral home. So that would be the difference between the two. And it does not require a chimney the way the fire retorts do. The system is in some of the basements of funeral homes as well. It doesn't need a lot of space, and it's very, very incongruous. So let me see if I can get her, because I'm not sure what she wanted to add to the end of this, but that is the last of her slides. Let's see here. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
She's back.
Oh,
Actually.
good.
Oh, yeah, she's just come back in.
Okay.
I do not know what happened there.
We lost you. You were chatting.
I was telling you that I was going to, if you could go back a slide, please. I didn't touch anything. And I was like yelling at my partner, did we just lose our internet? But we didn't. So I don't know what happened.
We weren't sure if you were coming back, so I spoke to the last slide, but in case you wanted to add to it, absolutely. You're welcome.
So you talked about how pretty it was and how easy it is to install and how small it is. And even that actually is positively impactful on its lower environmental impact. So I'm a big fan, as you might have noticed. Thank you for stepping in, Jocelyne. All right, and then that turns it over, my friends. If there are people with questions, I've got a wonderful expert friend in the room, and I know a couple of things too. So please speak up.
Oh, Christa. So Christa, we have a couple of questions in the chat. And both of
just
them
a second. I can stop sharing now, Christa. Is that okay?
Yes, of
okay,
course.
so if you can see Gisela, that's great. Okay, there you go. Okay.
And because I got booted out, I can't see anything in the chat anymore. You can only see what, like, while you, yeah. So people will,
Okay.
someone will
So
have to read it
Gisela,
to
do
me.
you want to do it or?
Oh, no, go ahead, please, Nancy. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that I didn't need to screen share further. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right. So the questions, Christa, and both of them are along the same line, is what is the source of the major pushback that you're faced with?
I'm going to, the standard line that we're given is that nobody's asking for it, and hence why would we bother? It's going to be a big bother, and nobody needs it anyway. So why would we do this? Is essentially the shorthand. This is coming directly from the BC Funeral Association and the Consumer Protection of British Columbia. When you sign our petition, actually copies go immediately to those organizations as well as the honorable ministers that we're sending this to. Yes, Jocelyne?
I just wanted to add too that another really, really big pushback, which is faced by many, many states and other provinces that don't have it quite yet, are the large funeral conglomerates like SCI.
Oh, I was getting there.
Okay, there you go. Keep going, my dear.
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I'm just, you can always count on me to talk about SCI. I actually don't get it, and I would really value your insight there, Jocelyne, because I don't understand why they're against it. But it has the Funeral Association is actually really essentially run by the larger corporations, Arbor and SCI in Canada, or Arbor in Canada, SCI in the U.S. and they are definitely blocking us on this, and we hear from them as well. Nobody's asking for it, which is another reason that I would love you to walk into your funeral home, your local funeral home, and say, hi, have you heard of alkaline hydrolysis? I'd like it. I would love to do that. But Jocelyne, tell me also why. I know that they are against it, but why?
The reason is because they've already invested thousands and thousands of dollars
Hundreds
in
and
their current
thousands.
installments.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other thing that they fear, because they're operating fire retorts, they are relegated usually to industrial or semi-industrial zones to be able to operate that. You're not going to find it in a neighborhood. Here in Victoria, we do, right up the street at Falaise, and it has caused consternation with the neighborhood because they end up waking up the next morning and their white car is full of gray dust, and that's coming from the chimney of a fire retort. So that's one reason, is because with alkaline hydrolysis, it will give a leg up to a lot of funeral homes that are located in city centers, like Anaya and other funeral homes.
Yeah.
In
And
Vancouver area.
Koru and Chris, who's also located,
In Victoria, exactly. And
100%.
that would take business away from the
Well, they
already
fear it
established
would, but
model.
here's the thing, is it's
Exactly.
not actually going to. And so it's kind of a fear-based response. The reason that, did you know actually that, well, you did, Jocelyne, but I bet a lot of people in this room didn't know that getting an actual cremation flame-based retort set up in the city of Vancouver, for example, it's never going to happen. We have one, and our rules state that they have to be on cemeteries. Well, we only have one cemetery in Vancouver. Right now, most cremations that take place from people who are born, or sorry, who die in Vancouver, they're happening at the minimum in Maple Ridge or Aldergrove, but many of them are being sent on a ferry over to Vancouver Island because there's not enough flame-based retorts even, and there certainly isn't enough for the boom that's about to come. So this fear-based response is absolutely ridiculous. Bob, the minister responsible for approval ultimately would be the Solicitor General, but you'll see on our you'll see who the letter is addressed to on our petition, and it's being sent to a few others. We are obviously trying to lobby, would be a strong word because that's expensive and takes time and money that we don't have, but we're definitely trying to raise interest with other ministers as well. The Memorial Society of BC doesn't technically have a position on alkaline hydrolysis. They are an arm's length governmental organization as well, and they're not politically allowed to. They are supportive. Sort of. Jocelyne, do you have more to say on that?
With the previous executive director, he was going to petition the entire Memorial Society membership, which was over 200,000, to give us their backing. But unfortunately, he left his position, and we're still waiting for the new executive director to say that they'll petition their people to at least sign it. I wanted to add something to who's responsible for the approval. The ministry, what's happening with the government right now, what they've led us to believe, Chris and I, is that they will wish to speak to the stakeholders being Ministry of the Environment, Health and Safety, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders. They want to do studies after study after study. And we need to keep reminding them that it's already approved in BC, because I did it for pets. I already have the approval from Vancouver, the city of Vancouver, the city of Victoria, all over the island. And everybody got involved with my initial approvals. And because it's the exact same process as humans, totally the same. The only difference is the machine is shaped differently. There's no reason for them to say, well, we need to go speak to all these people. Stop wasting taxpayers' money with all these studies. It's approved elsewhere in Canada. Let's
for the very same process.
No, let's exactly get this done.
Yeah. And Jim, I will get to you in just a second. I'll just blast through these questions in the chat, and then I'll get to you, Jim. Okay. Yes, Sir Tom, I completely agree with you. Ruth asked, do we have any idea of the cost? Well, one thing that I love is that Chris has actually publicly pledged to be $50 cheaper than any flame-based cremation that his organization will currently do. I think that we're probably going to see a range in the Vancouver area right now. Cremations can cost anywhere from about $1,300 to, if you go to SCI at Ocean View, you're probably going to pay about $6,500. So there is a range. Cheaper is not always better, but $6,500 is a little ridiculous. I suspect that there will be a bit of a range with alkaline hydrolysis as well. Please do understand that the people most likely to be offering this will be independent businesses. They will be small businesses, and they generally make commitments to employees that involve paying living wages. So you may pay a little bit more for an alkaline hydrolysis process potentially, but it's likely to be very, very close to what a typical cremation costs. Bodies sent to the U.S. It's not a common practice. And sorry, Sir Tom. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I didn't realize my mic was unmuted. I was wondering. I've been having my hand thing up, but it keeps disappearing on me. There, it went away again.
Oh, because you were pressing clap, not hand up. But that's totally fine. You're on now, so go ahead. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay. God, it's not
then we'll
easy.
Get to Jim.
It's not easy being a Luddite some days.
Me too.
So it strikes me that, this is a green initiative. In terms of your advocacy stuff, we have an NDP government that are getting beat up by their LNG stuff and beat up by their Site C Dam stuff, and now they're getting beat up by their Royal Museum proposal. And I'm wondering if there's an NDP MLA out there who's looking for some profile that might be willing to take this
So are
on
we.
from the inside.
So are we. So if you have any insight there, bring it on. Jim, what can I do for you? Oh, just unmute. Jim, you're still muted.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
there we
there
go.
we go.
Okay, I was just wondering what, I mean, you mentioned there was the opposition in BC, but what about the other provinces where it is legal? Have there not the same sort of opposition has happened there as happened here, and what have they done?
Jocelyne?
Are you okay to speak to it?
Yeah,
know
no,
about
I was
the
gonna
other
ask you to you
Okay.
have so much more knowledge on that than I do.
Yeah, no worries. Saskatchewan being the very first province, they did basically what could be done here in council. They just modified their cremation definition. Ontario was the exact same thing. They're in a battle right now, I'm sure you've heard, between low pressure and high pressure, but they're much stricter, and they approved the process much quicker. Not quicker than Saskatchewan, but quicker. And Quebec was not even a change. It was like, it's cremation, go for it.
Yeah.
So it was super easy because it's a proven method already accepted in North America. Even though it was in the States, Quebec said, we don't have a problem with it. Deal with the water authority and environment. And if they're okay with it, we're okay with it. So BC is really, for the green province, I'm not from BC, I'm from Quebec. And for BC to be known as the green place, yikes.
I know
it's got a ways
like
to go.
an uphill battle. And you know what I think is important to mention too, is that there are, like Newfoundland, I'm not even sure if there is an alkaline unit an AH unit in Newfoundland. And then Northwest Territories too, if there is, I think there's just one. So, sometimes just having it be legally available doesn't mean it's going to be readily available, but it's still a huge part. We need to get that. We just need to get that done soon. Yes, Jocelyne.
Yeah,
I just want to, sorry.
In the other provinces, what is the percentage of dispositions in the other provinces are actual aquamation?
Well, it actually, aquamation, I'm not 100% sure, but in like Newfoundland, for example, our stats are almost flipped. There are virtually like 14% of people who get cremated in Newfoundland and 86% of people who get buried. And that number kind of changes and goes down as you get over here. I'm not actually sure the strict percentage of alkaline hydrolysis that's in use. It's only been around for a few years anyway.
So a survey was done with funeral homes that have both alkaline hydrolysis and fire, because there's quite a few that do. And of all the people that come to them when they find out that they have alkaline hydrolysis, over 90% choose alkaline hydrolysis over fire.
When the option is available, the selection is enormously skewed. I noticed that we're only 2 minutes away. So our beautiful hosts, how are you feeling about?
I think there's just one more question in the chat. If you wouldn't mind just having a quick go at that, and then I think we can wrap it up.
Sure. The cost of the aquamation units, like I've heard from $150 for the smaller kind of pet cremation ones to $450 up to $750K is what I'm talking about here. So there will be an initial investment for funeral providers. And again, remember, often these will be independent funeral providers that will be making this investment out of the gate. But even though it's a fairly hefty investment, you don't have to have the same, it can almost be in like your garage. I'm not advocating for that, but you don't have to have the same kind of infrastructure around that you do for a retort. because you're not building something that's going to go to 1800 degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit and have that kind of heat and all that process. So it's actually, it's going to be able to, as you saw in that picture, you could basically wheel it in and put it next to already existing infrastructure.
Okay.
And how much water is used, Bob asked. It is it's a little bit higher, about 300 liters, which is about one person's use of water over 3 days average. But the amount of energy used for a flame-based cremation is a family of 4 for 7 days, the same energy, not just water usage, but energy that they use on average in a family of 4 for a week. So yes, there's water used, but it's just like apples to oranges.
I just want to add one last thing. There's a lot of provinces and states that are now starting to grandfather in existing fire retort locations and not allowing new locations to be put in. Prince Edward Island is one of them. And it's slowly going to make its way across, especially with the climate change program that Canada's putting out. They're looking at hydrogen energies and a whole bunch of other things too. So this is the time for funeral homes and for provinces to finally get alkaline hydrolysis approved. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Ken, we're just at time. If you can make it quick, maybe your last question, and then we will sign off. Ken, we cannot hear you. I think your mic must be off.
Hear me now?
Yes, can hear you
Okay.
fine now.
I just wondered if we could review responses and actions. There seem to be a number. Visit the Aquamation BC
Yeah.
website, sign the petition, invite Aquamation folks to any groups where we might have some influence. Are we talking letters to the editor? How do we relate to the Funeral Directors Association of BC, that sort of thing? So my question is actions.
Yeah, so actually, as I said, the key right now is please, aquamationbc.ca is where we want the energy focused. If we can collect and then harness that energy, we won't have just one-offs going off. One letter to the editor is not what we need right now. What we need is a lot of signatures on this petition, and we need more and more people knowing about this. That is the key and primary thing that we need right now. Aquamation BC also has some really excellent resources that we are willing to annotate, to change, to get set up just for your organization. And every time that we do sign, get a new signature on the petition, if you guys could mute yourselves, that'd be so good. We will, those are actually automatically already populating at the BC Funeral Association and at CPBC. So please focus on the petition, focus on getting energy to that petition and to aquamationbc.ca.
Right, okay, thank you. And you also mentioned the idea of a printed wallet card. Is there a template to print out on the website?
Yes,
Christa?
there is, right in the middle.
So people can go and download the template and print out their own little wallet cards and then hand them out to other people to get more signatures on that petition as well. Okay, so just to review that, Ken, sign and share the petition on the website at aquamationbc.ca. Anyone 18 and older. So print out
BC residents.
BC residents. Okay, good. Thank you. I hadn't noted that. So BC residents only, 18 years and older. So you can print the wallet cards off the website as well. As Christa said, all of them, Jocelyne and Christa, have been wonderful to work with in setting up this webinar with you tonight. So I would encourage other groups to do the same thing. That's another excellent way to get the word out. And then lastly, she also mentioned that because they're completely volunteer-based, donations are always welcome. So I think that covers it. If there's anything else, Christa, just jump in. But if not, great. Thank you very much. Thank you so much to you, Christa, for this excellent and extremely informative presentation. Thanks to Jocelyne for jumping in right
yes.
there when Christa disappeared for a minute. But you came back, so way to go. If anyone else has any questions, I'm assuming they can go through the Aquamation website and send them in there through the contact link. And other than that, I think we're done here tonight. So I'm inspired to go and keep sharing the word. I'm sure that we will add this to the repertoire of calls to action that Transition Kamloops has ongoing. I want to say thanks to our members who are here tonight and who have been helping me in the background. So Nancy and Margaret and Ken as well for his work in promoting this webinar. And if you want to know more about us, we're at www.transitionkamloops.net. So thank you very much, everyone.
I'm going to jump in just at the very end as well. Death's Apprentice, my company, deathsapprentice.ca is my website. And I have a newsletter that every month focuses on an alkaline hydrolysis like info and update. So if you're just looking for more info there, if you're worried that you might miss something, sign up for my newsletter as well. deathsapprentice.ca will get you there. Okay.
Perfect. Great. Well, thanks again, and good night, everyone.